This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good morning or good evening to you wherever you are. Out here in Southern California, it's a balmy 104 degrees, but in Washington, D.C., it's getting even hotter. And that's what this particular edition of the Daniel Greenfield Moment on the Glazov Gang is going to be about. It's going to be about how much the left loves the military. You know how much the left loves the military? You remember those signs back from the Iraq War protests? We support our troops when they shoot their officers. That's how much the left loves the military. So the left started out by expressing its great love for the military and insisting that Gold Star families were absolutely morally unchallengeable and that nobody should criticize them, and concluded with a fuming series of attacks on General Kelly because Gold Star families are only above criticism when they serve the left's agenda. And the left's agenda is anti-military. It is hostile to the military. It is hostile to the United States because that is what the left is. The left does not particularly like the military, believe it or not. That's right. And so we begin with the left's latest scandal. The left's latest scandal is focused around the deaths of 4 American soldiers in a conflict with Islamic terrorists. Now, the very same leftists who, of course, were big fans of Obama's policies, which included putting American soldiers in as advisors and trainers without proper support, are now suddenly very outraged. They want an investigation of what happened exactly and why 4 American soldiers died. The short answer, there is a long answer, no doubt, and there will be plenty of things to determine, but the short answer is that the Obama administration's policies largely involved fighting terrorism with the smallest possible footprint available. Now, that was true in Africa, which is where we're now focused on, but it was very much true in Afghanistan, and countless American soldiers lost their lives, were wounded, were maimed horribly because they were supposed to be there with the smallest possible footprint. American soldiers were supposed to have the smallest possible footprint in Iraq, and that was how we ended up with ISIS. The same kind of pattern of fighting Islamic terrorists by having the least possible footprint in place has been the trademark of Obama's policies. Now, why do we have to have the smallest possible footprint? Well, there's a very good reason for that, and by that I mean there's a very bad reason for it. The very bad reason for it is that we mustn't defend Islamic terrorists. We mustn't defend the Islamic terror populations in which the terrorists operate. So the working theory on the left is that Islamic terrorists aren't members of a genocidal, totalitarian, supremacist ideology whose goal is to seize and conquer as much territory in their local area and around the world as they can. Now, of course, these are people who are reacting angrily and very unhappily to American foreign policy. So Americans come in, they invade, they shoot up the place, and of course, Islamic terrorists naturally are just reacting to it. It's, as the left likes to call it, blowback. So from the left's point of view, and this was very much the point of view that Obama was operating under, the American military presence had to be kept as small as possible. So that meant using drones instead of planes. It meant using troops that did not have the full amount of support, did not have the kinds of freedom to defend themselves that was necessary. Now, some people, of course, have argued that these policies should have been buried with the Obama administration, and it would be nice to think so, but the reality is the federal government is huge, and it's quite possible we may never get rid of all of Obama's policies. It's very much a challenging and difficult process. But for that matter, expecting them to be gone within a year is also very optimistic, but very unlikely, especially considering some of the people who are there on foreign policy at the moment. In any case, this was very much something that was a product of the Obama administration. It was the Obama administration that decided to put American soldiers there for that particular reason and in that particular way. And the very Democrats who knew about it are now suddenly very outraged, and they want an investigation. They don't want an investigation of the Obama administration, which actually made the decision to put soldiers there in harm's way and to keep them relying on the French for air support. No, of course, they want an investigation of President Trump for what? Well, they just want an investigation. They don't actually have anything to tie it to, but investigations are fun for the whole family. Now, the gimmick here was they were going to take this case of American soldier being killed, 4 American soldiers actually, but only one of them apparently matters. But they were going to take this case of an American soldier being killed and blow it up into a larger criticism. And then General Kelly came out, and then the same media outlets that were very vocally insisting that Gold Star families could not be criticized, or at least they can't be criticized as long as they're members of minority groups. As soon as General Kelly came out and told the story, the same media outlets began shouting that there should be no generals in the White House, and that we're living under some sort of military dictatorship, because General Kelly came out there and told the story of his son. He told the story of the American soldiers dying out there and the various difficult decisions that have to be made as a result of that. Now, the media did not want to hear this, and so their response was to start denouncing the military. Now, the media had begun this manufactured scandal by insisting that President Trump was disrespectful of the military, and they concluded it by being disrespectful of the military. But that is just how the media and the left operates. The things it claims to be outraged by, the things that it claims to be very concerned and worried about, are utterly meaningless to it. It just uses them as cynical efforts in a battle for public opinion. And this entire outrage, this manufactured outrage, was always fake all along. And its conclusion, the attacks on General Kelly, show once again that the left hates the military, it hates America, and that it doesn't believe any of the things that it's saying. And that last part is the most important part. Because there's something to be said for honest enemies. There's something to be said for the unapologetic leftists, the Marxists, the communists who will come out there and just call for the destruction of America and scream hatred at the troops. It's disgusting. It's a despicable sight. But at the same time, there's a certain refreshing aspect to honesty. What the media is fundamentally dishonest. It will insist that it's for one thing when it's actually for another. It will claim that it's suddenly very concerned about the military when it actually hates the military. And given 5 minutes and 10 reasons to show why, they will make a great show of explaining just why they hate the military. And the attacks on General Kelly are very revealing in that regard. The attacks are revealing because, to the left, the military is a totalitarian institution. It's one that values personal sacrifice, that has a hierarchy, that believes that virtue comes from the willingness to risk your life in defense of the things you believe in. And these are not the things that the left believes in. And so we've had numerous media articles claiming that this entire concept, that the idea of personal greatness coming from a willingness to sacrifice for your country, is something fascist, that it's totalitarian. No, it's not. It's American. It's always been American. But the left increasingly does not operate in an American space. It operates in a foreign ideological space. And when it tries to talk about patriotism, as it does in its attacks against President Trump, it's speaking a foreign language. It doesn't understand the words that it's using. It's just exploiting a tragedy, just as it exploits any tragedy. It attempted to exploit every single natural disaster, from the wildfires in California to the hurricane in Puerto Rico, to attack President Trump. Because to the left, there's a very simple formula. Tragedy plus Trump equals story. That is the formula you will see in media accounts over and over again. And now when 4 American soldiers died and the media was made aware of it, the media seemed very disinterested in the hundreds and thousands of American soldiers who were killed and wounded in Afghanistan because of Obama's disastrous Afghanistan surge. It seemed to have very little interest in Benghazi, but now it's rediscovered the importance of Americans' lives. Of course, it doesn't mean that it's actually rediscovered the importance of killing and hunting down the Islamic terrorists who are responsible for those 4 deaths. No, of course. What the media wants is to somehow tie those deaths to Trump, and its facade, its phony facade of respect for the military, comes apart the very second that people from the military pushed back against it, and then the left reverted back to its roots of being anti-military, of being unpatriotic, of hating those Americans who are the best of us, who actually do go out there and make that sacrifice, who leave behind their families, who go to places that that most of us couldn't be paid to go to, who risk their lives, and sometimes they come back physically whole, but wounded inside, and sometimes they come back missing an arm or a leg, or they come back in a coffin. And when we talk about those sacrifices, the ultimate authority on that is not Brian Williams, whose imaginary stories of heroism turned out to be just as real as his intelligence and his integrity. It's not the media, it's the people who've actually been out there. And so that's why General Kelly's press conference, infuriated the media so much. The media likes to transform itself into an authority on everything. It likes to insist that it should have the final word. And yet this is an area where it can't have the final word, where it doesn't deserve the final word, where it doesn't have the experiences, let alone the ethics or the principles or the integrity necessary to get that final word. And when the media is opposed, when it's balked, then it, of course, decides to utterly destroy the person who is balking it, who is frustrating it. And so it unleashed all its anger, its wrath at General Kelly, because the media loves the military to death, just like it loves the middle class to death, just like it loves America to death. And it's important to remember that when you see the next fit of media self-righteousness, the media doesn't care about the military, it doesn't care about America, it wants to destroy it, because that's what the left is. The left is a force of destruction. It is utterly cynical. It is utterly self-righteous. And that combination of factors creates the kind of bizarre wall-to-wall propaganda you can now see on cable news all the time, at any minute and hour of the day. And so the media's dishonesty ends with it coming to adopt a position that is completely in reverse of its original position. Its original position was that Trump is disrespectful of the military. It concluded by being disrespectful of the military. Its original position was that Gold Star families must be respected. Its new position is that Gold Star families must be disrespected. And that is what the media is. It takes whatever it claims to believe and turns it inside out. It turns it into an upside down version of whatever it claims to believe. It's a fun house. It's a house of mirrors. It's a house of lies. And we shouldn't be taken in by them. Thank you so much for listening. This has been another Daniel Greenfield moment on the Glazov Gang. If you found this moment worthwhile, and if you enjoy the other fine programming coming out of the Glazov Gang, including Jamie Glazov's own interviews, then please support the Glazov Gang and help keep it on the air, or the virtual air at any rate. And have a very good night or a good morning, wherever you might be.